On the Sidelines, Episode 2.
When the game ends and those Friday night lights dim,
that's the cue to turn our attention onto the very players, coaches, and community that makes football in Union County great.
Join Tim Winters as he covers the game from every angle, here on the Sidelines.
Hey, Union County Football Nation. This is Tim Winters on the sidelines today with Piedmont quarterback Cam Tripp. Cam Tripp, the senior quarterback, finishing out the last few weeks of his senior year at Piedmont High School before moving on to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Harvard University. So before we jump into the interview, let me give you a little bit of a recap on what Cam Tripp has done over the last few years as starting quarterback of the Piedmont Panthers. Cam, a senior at Piedmont, has played quarterback for the varsity football team and is the definition of a student athlete. Cam is ranked third in his class with a 4.9 GPA and is a member of the National Honor Society. A two-time all-conference player, Cam threw for 4,400 yards, 42 passing TDs, 20 rushing TDs, and 1,230 yards on the ground during his Panther career. Years of hard work on the gridiron and the classroom paid off as Cam will be attending Harvard University in the fall. Now that we have a little insight into Cam's impressive accomplishments at Piedmont over the last few years, let's jump to the interview. I am psyched to have Cameron Tripp, senior quarterback for Piedmont High School, soon to be Harvard-bound, on the show with me. Cam, welcome to On the Sidelines.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Cam, as I said in your intro, you really personify the student athlete. I think from watching you on field during practice, games on Friday nights, and from afar, basketball season and everything else, you've probably taken advantage of every opportunity that high school has to offer academically and athletically. If you could talk about that development from freshman to senior, how you've grown as a student and as an athlete.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you for that compliment. That means a lot. It speaks well of both me and my family. But for me, my high school years have been a process. And I came in as a freshman, as a young guy who really didn't know much, about my capabilities in the classroom or on the field. And I've had a great supporting cast around me that's pushed me to be the best that I can be in the classroom and on the field. But my parents, I have to give them, loads of credit, if not all the credit, because they've pushed me much harder in the classroom than on any football field or basketball court. Grades have always come first for them. It's always been, you have to make the grades or your sport doesn't really mean much. Because for me to go to the next level, which is college, I had to make the grades. And I just have to give them a lot of credit. But at the same time, it has been a process for sure. There's been ups, there's been downs. But I think for me, it's been, kind of pressing through the lows and enjoying the highs. And I really have enjoyed the process, and I'm excited for my next challenge as well, though.
You talk about the ups and downs. Is it the juggling act of balancing athletics and academics and?
Right. It's definitely a challenge, and it's a personal battle to balance, schoolwork and athletic practices and games and things of that nature. I think for me, it's always been a personal struggle to, how much time do I spend doing this homework and studying, and for me to still be successful, on Friday night. I can't stay up late Thursday. I can't stay up all night Thursday night studying for my calculus test on Friday because I'm not going to be able to perform on Friday night. But at the same time, I know for me to be successful in the classroom, I do have to spend time studying. So maybe I give myself an hour on Wednesday night and then another hour on Thursday rather than staying up until, midnight or 1 a.m. studying for that test. And I think it's still a struggle and it is a process, but just I think finding that personal balance I think has been big for me, and I'm still trying to find it. With every situation it's different, and I think it's just time management, honestly.
How difficult is it to tune out all the extracurricular stuff, your friends that are staying up later because that's just the way they're doing it, and trying to pull yourself away? That's got to be tough.
Right. I do have a lot of friends who are, your typical high school guys who are up late, go out on the weekends and things like that. And they're my friends, and they're great people too. But I also have a very motivated inner group of friends. And, for example, I'll give you Aaron Braswell. He's a guy going to play football at Davidson. And he and myself really have been in the same boat for a long time as far as that goes, because he's at the top of our class with me, and he's also trying to be as successful as possible in his athletics. So he's been a big help as far as that goes, because I know I'm not the only one going through, the struggle. And I think I can speak for myself. I can't speak for him. But my high school experience has been, very atypical compared to a non-athlete or someone who just kind of plays sports for enjoyment. And I think that my experiences both on the field and in the classroom have kind of helped develop me as a person and who I am now.
You were recruited by a number of schools: Harvard, UAB, Wingate, West Point, and Harvard came in with that offer, and you took that offer. Talk about the recruiting process that you went through. How stressful was that? And then talk about the decision to go to Harvard.
Well, it was definitely a process. I got recruited by a lot of schools early in my junior year. That summer I spent traveling from camp to camp to camp, and even through my junior football season and into the winter, I was still, had no idea really where I wanted to go.
What was the traveling to camps? Was that fun? How'd you look at that?
It was fun, but, after 3 or 4 camps, you're really ready to just get back to your guys and your high school and just kind of, hang out with your friends and become, that team player. And it's a lot, it looks like a lot more fun than I think it actually was. But it was definitely something that I'm grateful for, and I was grateful for the opportunity and thankful for all the schools that did recruit me. But honestly, as far as Harvard goes, they came in the spring, last April, and watched me run in a workout type thing. They asked me to come up for a visit, and, it's really hard to say no to Harvard. And Coach Crawford, who's my recruiting area coach, when he made the trip, I had a great, just a great feel with him. He actually played at Davidson. So he was a guy who's a very intelligent guy, obviously, and was also a great athlete. So just kind of getting to pick his brain about Harvard and why he thought Harvard would be a good fit for me and my family. And I went up that summer for a camp, one of the first camps right after school had gotten out. And I just had a great experience. I came in on a Saturday. I got a tour of the facilities, the academics. I got that tour too. And the following day, I had a workout, which also went well. And I got to interact with the coaches and some of the players who were working the camp and just kind of pick their brain about what it was like, not only to live in the North, but to also go to, one of the top schools in the country and be expected to perform at, a championship level. And that was a really intriguing part for me, just to kind of get to know the guys. And I was like, wow, these guys are a lot like me. I can see myself being here. And we went home with a great feeling about that visit. My dad went up with me. So when we came home, I was like, I think that's the place for me. If that's an opportunity, I think that's where I want to go. So my family prayed about it, because my mom and dad had always said that, God wasn't going to make me choose. He was going to open and close doors, and I was going to know exactly where I was supposed to go. And a week later, I got a phone call, and I received an offer, which was awesome. It was awesome for my whole family. I think we still, to this day, can remember where we were when we heard about it. And, I told him that I was very grateful and that I would think about it and talk to my family about it. So, I spent a few days thinking on it, praying about it. And, it was just the place for me. I'm extremely grateful and excited about the opportunity. And, honestly, I can't wait to be up there. But the recruiting process was definitely a process, and for all the younger guys going through it, stick to it. It's worth it in the end. Whether you do go where you thought you were going to go or you end up not going to do anything at all, it's just enjoy the process, because once it's over, I don't think it's going to happen again. And I think it's a process that everyone should enjoy.
And you have a unique position in that your dad went through a recruiting process, was drafted by the New York Giants. What type of input did he have? He had experience living up north. What input did he have in making the decision, your decision?
Well, he had always tried to remain as unbiased as possible. He played at Chapel Hill, so he was always a little blue biased. He really was a key factor. My mom did a lot of, helping me with the emails and sending out my highlight tape and, trying to make myself marketable. But my dad really helped me as far as, the questions, not so much the questions to ask, but, what I needed to know and what I needed to be looking for. And one thing that they both told me that I thought was really one of the things that still sinks in the back of my mind is, where would I want to be if I got hurt or something happened and I could never play another down of football or score another basket? And that was something that I really had to sit and think about, because some of these places that I was interested in, if I couldn't play a sport, I'm not sure that I would want to be there. And Harvard, for me, was kind of the total package. Great academic institution, great athletics, and the people that I met, I was just naturally drawn to. And I think it was kind of the perfect storm for me, honestly. And my dad had a lot to do with it as far as just supporting my decisions. And, he was always helping me travel, and where him or my mom were both willing to help me go where I wanted to go. And if it was taking a trip up to New York, in December, flying up or anything like that, or going up to Boston in the summer, that's a lot of time. And I know it was a lot of stress on my family for the few years that we went through the process. But I think, in the end, I think if I was going to go through the process, I was going to do my best to be as educated as possible before I made a decision. And I think that's what they stressed to me, is to know everything that there is to know and everything that you need to know, so your decision can be as educated and, as thorough as possible, I think is the way to say it.
Let's shift back a little bit and look back at your senior year playing. I think, I was there for that one game. I was going to ask you initially, what was your biggest high as a Panther playing quarterback? And, I'm interested to hear that. I would think watching that game at Porter Ridge, down 20-0 in that first quarter, having struggled against that team for years, that'd have to be up there. If you could talk about the highs that you've had as a quarterback for this team over the last 3 years that you've been playing on varsity.
Well, I think the highs kind of match the lows as far as that goes. You mentioned Porter Ridge. They had beaten us like 57-7 the previous year, and I had not played very well. So for our team to go out and, from the underdog role that we had at the time, and just to it was the fashion that we won. It wasn't so much that we won, it was the fashion that we won. And we felt like we could do, almost anything. But I would say that the biggest high for me was the Anson game this year. And it was after Coach Massey's funeral, and Coach Massey had passed away, which was an extreme low. And just for us to go out there, kind of honor him in the way we played, and just to get that win on that field that Monday night, with our whole community backing us up, it was I'm getting chills thinking about it now. It was just, without a doubt, I think the biggest football game that I think any of our guys have ever played in. And, it was a big couple of weeks and a couple of months for us. And I think it brought us together. Now we're kind of bonded for life. We're like brothers as far as that goes. And I think it was much more than football. And I think that meant a lot to all of us, both on the field and off.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that game, that Sun Valley game, was 5 weeks after that Porter Ridge victory. Mm-hmm. You had that really tough loss at home, 74-58, I think, something like that. And then Coach Massey passes away on Saturday morning. And from what I've heard, you were one of the last players to speak to him on that Friday night. If you can just reflect a little bit about Coach Massey. I've also heard that the impact he's had on you on making that decision, maybe football, basketball, you're thinking maybe not football. So maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Right. Well, after my sophomore year, I really wasn't sure if football is what I wanted to do or if I even wanted to play anymore. And Coach Massey just kind of sat me down and gave me, kind of his version of a pep talk. He said, would you rather play in front of 5,000 people or 50,000? And it was kind of his way of saying, football is what you love. Don't give up what you love because you haven't tasted the immediate success in it. And he told me that I was too good to give up a passion of mine. And just, he was always very supportive of me. Whether he said it verbally or not, I could always just feel that pride that I guess he took in me. And with Coach Massey, we had a very a tight relationship, because whether he liked it or not, we had to spend 2.5 hours together every day. And for us to be successful on Friday night, we had to be on the same page. And, he watched a lot of extra film with me. I would come in, after school or before school, and we'd watch, 30 minutes or 45 minutes of film together. And as far as the recruiting process goes, coaches respected him. And whatever he had to say went. And they believed him and they trusted in him. And every coach that we saw, had a funny Massey story to tell or a joke to tell back to him. And he was a lot more than X's and O's for me. He was really a guy who pushed me to be the best me that I could be, whether it was in the football field, in the weight room, or, just kind of walking around school. But he was a big part of my football, time in high school. I'll never forget the first time we met. He was giving kind of his introduction speech in our auditorium. Afterwards, we were supposed to come through, shake his hand, and tell him our position. So I'm coming through the line, excited, new coach. It's kind of a big deal for a quarterback when a new coach comes in because there's all of the unknowns. Well, I shook his hand. I said, "Coach Massey, my name is Cameron Tripp, and I'm going to be your quarterback." And he kind of laughed and shrugged me off. He said, "We'll see." But it was just the initial challenge, and I guess that's what he always did for me, was he challenged me every day, not so much perfection, but just the best that I could do. And if he didn't feel like I was giving the best that I could, he was going to push me to give that, and he was going to push me until I gave that. And I think just his confidence in me really allowed me to feel, a little bit more in control of the offense, first of all, and more, in control of what happened on the field. And he always was just he always had a calming effect on me. And no matter where I was, no matter what was going on in my life or in school, I knew when I went out between those white lines for 2.5 hours every day, he was going to be the same person. And I appreciate him, a lot more than I was ever able to tell him. But he had a big impact on both my football career and, I'm sure it'll be the rest of my life now because he's meant a lot.
The person that you look back and up through this point in your life, who's inspired you the most? One person that you can look to for inspiration.
I would definitely say, I don't know if it's so much one person. I would have to say both my parents, because like I told you, it hasn't always been easy as far as athletics or academics have gone. But they've always, stayed strong for me when I needed someone to be strong. They've given me the tough love when I needed, to be pushed a little bit. But they've also been, kind of people that I can turn to when I have an issue and I need someone to be sensitive for me. And I think they've just been both my rock, and my shield. They've done everything they can in their power to protect me, but to also allow me to grow individually. And I think they've done a great job with not only me, but with my sister too. And I'm extremely grateful for them.
I know this might be a little tough as you're finishing up your high school career, looking at your next few years in New England up at Harvard. What are the plans, the immediate plans for you as a college freshman?
Well, first it's going to be to buy some warmer clothes because I know living in the Northeast is going to be a culture shock at first. And I'm excited about that, though, honestly. A lot of people ask me, if I'm nervous or if I'm scared. Yeah, I'm a little nervous, of course. I'm moving 15 hours away from my family that I've lived with my whole life. But honestly, I'm excited for the challenge, and I'm ready to embrace the challenge. And like you said, it's going to be a lot more than just school. It's going to be an academic challenge. It's going to be an athletic challenge. It's going to be an everyday living challenge, living on my own, living in a foreign society almost. But I'm extremely excited, and I think the opportunity is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I'm going to enjoy every moment of it. I'm sure there's going to be ups and downs just like there has been in high school, but I'm extremely excited, and I think it's going to be a great thing for me to get up there this summer and get to work out with the guys and, live in that area. So that way I'm not so, bombarded with things come August. And I think that'll be big for me.
Yeah, as a former New Yorker, Boston has always been my favorite city. And as a New Yorker, that's not a popular thing to say. But I love Boston. It's a great historic city, probably the best college town, I think, in the country, with all the schools there. It's an unbelievable sports city, and it really embraces the college athlete. So I think it's just a great environment for you.
Yes, sir.
Before we shift into some quick-fire questions, there's one that I'm just going to hit you with, because I've thought about this a lot. I've asked a lot of people about this. This is a vibe that I've gotten. Being here covering Union County football for the last few years, traveling to all the communities, whether it's Marvin, Weddington, Waxhaw, Monroe, Forest Hills, there is something very unique about Piedmont. Unionville, the Piedmont community, very supportive, very close-knit. I think about the fact that a lot of what we see in Marvin and Weddington, these towns sprung up, a lot of Northeasterners, a lot of mix, a lot of transients in and out. But Piedmont just seems to be a group that is very family-oriented, very supportive. Could you just talk about that in terms of what that community has meant to you? And is that a true sense, what I'm relaying to you?
I think you hit the nail on the head with, tight-knit, family-oriented, because that's exactly what it is. There's no place that I would rather be, honestly, and I had a few opportunities to leave, after my freshman and sophomore year to go to some of the private schools in the area. But Piedmont is unique. It's very unique. Everyone's extremely supportive. Everyone's very into sports. And like I was telling you earlier, everybody talks about Friday nights, for the weeks to come, until the next Friday night. And I think that sports go beyond sports for us, because a lot of the guys are second-generation Piedmont people or third-generation Piedmont people. So I think it's kind of a community interaction when we all get together and we play on Friday nights, or, we have a basketball game on a Tuesday night or anything of that nature. But I think the community as a whole has been extremely supportive of not only myself, but the controversy and the adversity that we went through this season with Coach Massey's passing. And, it really shows that the community has been a backbone for a lot of our, high school athletes, and even our guys coming up, the middle school athletes. And I just hope that this community never changes, because it's a place that I love, and I've been extremely grateful to call it my home, and I'm sad to leave it. But I know it'll always be a big part of me.
All right, Cam. We are going to move into the quick-fire question round. Shorter, more to the point, just to get a little bit more sense about you, and not all football related. First off, your favorite app on your phone?
Oh, I'm a big music guy, so the SoundCloud app that I have all my songs that I've liked and downloaded on there. So that's a big app for me. When I wake up in the morning, one of the first things I do is listen to music. Before I go to bed, it's one of the last things I do is listen to music. So I'd have to say my SoundCloud. If
you had the opportunity to meet any athlete, living or deceased, who would that athlete be?
Well, it'd be Michael Jordan, because I feel like I know he's the greatest basketball player of all time. I think he is one of the best competitors of all time. And my dad always speaks about Michael Jordan. We watch some of Michael Jordan's highlight tapes. And I would love to meet him in his prime, when he was on top of not only the sports world, but on top of, even like the American society's world. He was the man. And I would just like to see what he was like back then, because I like competitive spirits, and I'm a super competitor, and I'd love to see what he was like.
All right. Friday Night Football. What did Friday Night Football mean to you as a player and as a student athlete?
Well, only people who have played on Friday nights can really explain the feeling. So it's extremely. It makes you feel all this crazy emotion you didn't know you were capable of. When we get in that big blow-up helmet right before we run on the field, and you can just feel the intensity and, kind of the anticipation in the air. And I think it's just playing Friday Night Football is completely different than playing any other sport. Just those summer days, everything you've worked for all summer, and, even into August, it's just getting to go out there and just be yourself and be volatile and just, I don't know, it's a release of excitement and all the buildup of the week, and it's extremely just awesome to feel. And just to run out on that field and you hear the band playing and you see your family, your friends, and even your enemies in the stands, and it's something that can't even be described with words. I think it's almost indescribable, but it's definitely something that I'm grateful for, and it's a big part of me, or it was.
Last question. One where we can suspend reality a little bit, maybe dream. You have unlimited cash and the ability to jump back and forth through time with no geographical boundaries. Given those resources, what would you describe as your perfect sports weekend?
My perfect sports weekend. I would like to go back to the very first ever Super Bowl played, just to say that I experienced that. I would like to go to the old Yankee Stadium to experience a game there. And like I said, I would like to see MJ hit a game-winning shot in a game, and just to see, I don't know, his greatness or his success and his competitiveness in person. I'd just love to see that, and I've always been a big MJ fan. So I would have to say that's a perfect sports weekend for me.
That sounds pretty good. Well, Cam, I want to thank you again. It's been a pleasure talking to you here. It's been a pleasure watching you play and following your achievements over the last 3 years that I've covered you. Thank you so much. We wish you all the best. We know you're going to do great up there. We know you have a place that you call home here in Union County, and it was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Winters, and it's been, like you said, an awesome 3 years or 4 years, and I think you're doing great things for Union County football, and you're helping us get out there, and you're helping, us get exposure that, we didn't have before, and I think that if a lot of the guys could see you and tell you, I think they would say the same thing that I'm saying right now, and a big thank you for that, and please keep doing what you're doing because we appreciate it, and it means a lot to us to have bragging rights on your stat sheets and to be able to rub that into the other guys, so keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
I want to thank Cam Tripp again for joining me here on the sidelines and wishing him all the best up at Harvard over the next 4 years. Thanks for joining me here on the sidelines, and don't forget to check out our website at unioncountyfootball.com for links and recap of this show and all our previous shows, as well as a ton more. unioncountyfootball.com for football news 24/7, 365.
Thanks for listening to On the Sidelines, the official podcast of UnionCountyFootball.com, the #1 online source for football information in Union County, North Carolina.